Part 1, The Present, A Call to the Abyss. So here we are, right now, meeting Henry Walsh, or at least, that's who he used to be. These days, he goes by a different name, trying his best to bury the dark secrets of his past. He's living under the radar, doing everything he can to keep those demons locked away, but let me tell you, some things just won't stay buried no matter how hard you try. On the surface, Henry's life looks pretty normal, quiet, uneventful, almost boring. But scratch beneath that layer, and you'll find a bubbling cauldron of trouble, simmering quietly but ready to explode at any moment. One night, something strange happens. Out of nowhere, Henry feels this weird urge to turn on the radio, and before he knows it, he's tuned into a late-night talk show hosted by some lady named Rachel Carter. Her voice cuts through the static like she's speaking directly to him. The topic they're discussing? Matricide. Yeah, that's right, sons killing their mothers. Heavy stuff, right? And guess who's sitting there as the guest expert? Dr. Keaton, the shrink who once tried to fix Henry. Small world, huh? As the conversation gets deeper and darker, Henry feels this gnawing need to call in. Like he has no choice but to share his twisted tale with these strangers. Using the alias Donald, he starts spilling his guts, painting a picture so grim it sends shivers down anyone's spine. Every word he speaks carries weight, dripping with menace, like he's daring them to challenge him. He drops a bombshell: his wife, Meloni, is pregnant. Instead of being overjoyed, though, Henry's filled with dread. In his warped mind, he convinces himself that the baby will inherit the same mental instability he struggles with. His logic twists further. He decides the only way to stop this cycle is to act first, before the child even takes its first breath. Rachel and Dr. Keaton try to intervene, their voices growing frantic as they realize just how dangerous Henry really is. They plead with him, begging him to see reason, but it's too late. Henry's already spiraling out of control, consumed by paranoia and his own twisted reasoning. With a final click, he hangs up the phone, leaving Rachel and Dr. Keaton stunned on the other end. Meanwhile, his brain's already racing ahead, plotting the next move in a game only he understands. There's a flicker in his eyes, a fire burning deep within, a sign that something dark and violent is about to unfold. As Henry stares out the window at the moonlit night, catching sight of his reflection, it's like he sees two people, the man he pretends to be, and the shadowy figure lurking behind him. Then, soft but clear, the voice in his head whispers, "It's time." Part 2, The Past, A Tormented Childhood. Now, let's rewind the clock and take a look at how Henry became the man he is today. We go back to his childhood, where the seeds of his psychosis were planted by none other than Sylvia Walsh, his cruel and sadistic mother. She wasn't just tough, she was downright abusive, manipulating Henry emotionally and swinging between violent moods that warped his young psyche. She isolated him from the outside world, forbidding him from playing with other kids, until his entire universe revolved around her, and her alone. Things got worse as Henry hit adolescence. Sylvia's cruelty escalated, crossing boundaries no parent should ever cross. She dressed provocatively, flaunted her relationships with men, and humiliated Henry whenever he reacted like any normal teenager would. One particularly harrowing memory stands out: she forced him into a dress, calling him her little girl and planting seeds of confusion and hatred deep within him. When Sylvia brought home a new lover, Henry's jealousy and rage boiled over. Consumed by emotion, he snapped, killing the man in a brutal fit of uncontrollable anger. That act set off a chain reaction, leading to his complete unraveling. Not long after, he poisoned Sylvia's tea, staging it as a murder-suicide. But the aftermath proved far scarier than the crime itself. Unable to let go of his mother, Henry preserved her corpse, dressing her in her clothes and speaking in her voice. A split personality emerged, trapping Henry in a psychological prison where the horrors of his past never truly died. The house became a shrine to his madness, every corner whispering memories of Sylvia's cruelty and Henry's descent into insanity. Fast forward to the present day, and there's Henry, standing outside the decaying Walsh motel. The house looms large, a physical manifestation of his torment. With trembling hands, he steps inside, ready to face the ghosts of his past once and for all. Part 3, The Final Descent, A Bloody Reckoning. Back to the present, and Henry returns to the Walsh motel, the crumbling symbol of his madness. Every step through its shadowy halls stirs painful memories, as if the house itself is alive, whispering dark secrets in his ear. This is where Henry faces his ultimate reckoning, not just with the ghost of his mother, but with the fractured pieces of his own soul. Finally, Henry douses the house in gasoline and sets it ablaze. Flames roar to life, consuming everything, the house, the memories, the guilt, the insanity, all reduced to ash. As the structure collapses, Henry speaks aloud, addressing the specter of his mother one last time. "You're gone," he says, his voice steady but tinged with sorrow. "I'm free." Emerging from the inferno, Henry walks away, his face expressionless. He heads back to Meloni, telling her that he's finally escaped his mother's grip. His words sound calm, almost reassuring, but there's something off about his demeanor. The darkness in his eyes suggests otherwise, a hunger that hasn't been satisfied, a piece of his old self still lingering. Henry's voice echoes softly, "Maybe, just maybe, this time, I'll get it right." Or will he? Part 4, The Aftermath, Shadows of Redemption. After the fire that consumed the Walsh motel, Henry tries to rebuild his life with Meloni. The charred remains of the house symbolize more than just the destruction of his past, they represent his desperate attempt to leave behind the darkness that has defined him. At first, things seem to be going well. Meloni is supportive and hopeful, believing in Henry's ability to change. But as time passes, cracks begin to appear in their fragile facade. Meloni notices subtle changes in Henry. His behavior becomes erratic, moments of tenderness alternating with inexplicable bouts of silence and detachment. She senses that something within him remains unresolved, a shadow cast over their newfound peace. Despite her efforts to connect with him, Henry keeps parts of himself hidden, locked away in the depths of his mind. Meanwhile, fragments of Henry's past resurface in unexpected ways. Nightmares plague him, vivid reenactments of his mother's voice taunting him from the grave. In these dreams, Sylvia accuses him not of killing her, but of failing to truly escape her influence. "You'll always be mine," she whispers, her words echoing through the corridors of his fractured psyche. These visions leave Henry shaken, questioning whether he has truly severed ties with his past or merely postponed the inevitable. As Meloni's pregnancy progresses, Henry's unease grows. He finds himself obsessively researching child development, seeking answers to questions he fears asking aloud. Can trauma be inherited? Will his child inherit the same instability that plagued him? The more he learns, the more conflicted he becomes. On one hand, he longs to break the cycle of violence, on the other, he feels powerless against the forces shaping his destiny. One evening, while Meloni rests, Henry sits alone in their small home, staring at a photograph of the two of them together. For the first time, he acknowledges the weight of what he's done, not just the murders, but the years spent trapped in his own madness. Tears well up in his eyes, surprising even him. Is this grief, guilt, or something else entirely? He doesn't know, but the vulnerability scares him. The tension reaches a breaking point when Meloni confronts him about his growing distance. "Are you still there?" she asks, her voice tinged with desperation. Henry hesitates, unsure how to respond. The truth is, he isn't sure himself. A part of him feels like an imposter, pretending to lead a normal life while battling demons no one else can see. In a pivotal moment, Henry decides to visit Dr. Keaton, the psychiatrist who once tried to help him. Their reunion is tense, filled with unspoken accusations and regrets. Dr. Keaton listens intently as Henry recounts his recent struggles, offering insights that both comfort and disturb him. Freedom isn't about escaping your past, Dr. Keaton says. It's about understanding it, and choosing to move forward despite it. These words resonate deeply with Henry, but they also spark fear. Moving forward means confronting the possibility that his darkest impulses may never fully disappear. It means accepting that he may always carry the potential for violence within him, regardless of his intentions. The story concludes with Henry standing outside under a starlit sky, gazing at the horizon. Meloni joins him, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Together, they watch as the first stirrings of dawn light the world around them. Henry's echoes softly, "Maybe we're all prisoners of our past. Maybe freedom isn't about breaking free, it's about learning to live with the chains."